Hello, everyone. This is one of the introductory presentations to the event, Opportunities of the European Green Deal and EU Macro-Regional Strategies, organized by the EU Strategy for the Adriatic-Ionian Region, Pillar Coordinators, Environmental Quality, and Interact program. The event is part of this year's Mediterranean Coast and Macro-Regions Week, which has been moved online. We believe that discussion could not be even more topical. Europe and its regions are in a time of transition and recovering from the health and economic crisis. To achieve the ambition for Europe to become the first climate-neutral continent, solidarity and regional cooperation are vital. EU macro-regional strategies can play a crucial role here. This video presentation aims to introduce the framework shaping the European future, European Green Deal and Green Recovery Plan. We will also focus on synergies between the European Green Deal and macro-regional strategies. In this way, setting the scene for the panel discussion we will have on 21st September. My name is Ilse Tsiganska, and together with my colleague Paiva Liep, we are happy to greet two speakers from the EU Commission, DG Regio. As first, we will have Sander Happaerts, Policy Analyst at the EU Commission Competence Center Smart and Sustainable Growth, where he focuses on promoting environmental and climate policy issues in a regional development context. Following his input, we will be happy to welcome Giacomo Luciani, representing Unit D1, Macro Regions, Transnational, Interregional, External Cooperation and Enlargement at DG Regio. Giacomo combines the knowledge on environmental issues and the work of macro regions. Without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Sander.
Thank you very much, Ilse, and thank you to all for watching this presentation. I am Sander Happaerts. In DG Regio, I work in a horizontal unit where I coordinate environmental issues for DG Regio. And in this presentation, I will talk about the European Green Deal, the link with the recovery plan for Europe, and also the role of the next generation of cohesion policy in all of this. So what is the European Green Deal? It is Europe's new growth strategy. It is the first objective of the von der Leyen Commission, and it is linked to the overall target of making Europe the first climate neutral continent in the world. But it is also about transforming Europe into a fair and prosperous society to protect the health and well-being of citizens from environmental impacts, and also to protect and improve the natural capital that we have in Europe. For this, the European Green Deal is not just one initiative, but it is really a set of deeply transformative policies. And you can see some examples here, and some of them have already led to several other specific initiatives, such as the EU Biodiversity Strategy, the Circular Economy Action Plan. But as part of the Green Deal, there are several other specific initiatives that will be taken. So the European Green Deal will really try to achieve these goals by a set of policies that will transform the EU's economy, and also doing all this taking into account that no one and no region is left behind. So this is the European Green Deal in a nutshell. The European Green Deal was proposed by the Commission in very early on in December last year. But of course, since then, the pandemic struck, and we are now in a context really where the Commission has set forward a couple of proposals to repair the economic and social damage that was brought on by this pandemic, and to really put Europe back on a path of recovery. So this is the context that we are now in. And for this, the Commission is set on using the full potential of the next EU budget. So we are talking especially about the MFF of 2021 to 2027, to use the full potential of the European budget to power this recovery. The Commission has issued its proposals for this recovery in May. There has been an agreement already from the European Council in July this year, and as we speak right now, it is being discussed with the European Parliament. So we are still, of course, in the stage where these proposals, including the ones for the next budget, are not yet adopted, but we are negotiating them. The proposals have several elements to it. You can see a couple on these slides. I will not enter into details now, but we are, of course, available for questions. Some of these proposals include a reinforcement of proposals that we put forward before, like the ones for the just transition mechanism, but also those related to health and to disaster risk management, like rescEU. And they also contain a couple of new dimensions. For instance, the idea of the next generation EU, which includes the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which will be embedded in the European semester and will really help the recovery of EU member states based on their own recovery and resilience plans that they are now developing. But very important to remember in this recovery plan is that the main overall objective still remains the green transition, but also the digital transition. These are two of the main policy objectives of the current Commission in the context of building a resilient Europe. So the European Green Deal, although it precedes the COVID crisis, still remains fully our one objective. And this is why I turn now to cohesion policy, because the cohesion policy is, of course, one of the elements that are important in the EU budget. And cohesion policy, as our president has said, will play a very important role in achieving the European Green Deal. It is the EU's main investment policy, and it will have a number of different important roles in achieving the Green Deal. For instance, with cohesion policy, we will invest in place-based innovation. So all regions in Europe can invest with this policy in innovation that are linked to their own strengths and their own priorities. But cohesion policy with its investments will also help deploying all these innovations on a large scale throughout Europe. These are technological, but also social innovations to help prepare all regions to reap the benefits of the sustainability transition. With this, we also help them in facilitating the phase out of unsustainable practices in order to achieve the long-term environmental and climate goals. And the cohesion policy will also help that all regions will enjoy a just transition. So those who, we will have no one left behind, those who face higher costs in getting on to the transformations that are needed, we will help them as well. So we are now still negotiating with the Parliament and the Council the regulations for the next generation of cohesion policy. Although we developed them before the European Green Deal was adopted, as you can see here among the 5 policy objectives, greener Europe is really was already there among the main priorities for the next period. And as we are negotiating now, this really becomes one of the key objectives, also linked to certain earmarking of funding. Just to give you an example of the policy as it has supported already regions in the past, this is not an example that you can see here of one specific project, but rather of a transformation of a region that was accompanied by the help of cohesion policy. And this is also what we aim to do in the future. And we really hope to help all regions in Europe to go along the transition towards sustainability and to accompany them with the necessary investments. Just a few words on the newest member of the family of funds of cohesion policy. It's the Just Transition Fund. It is a proposal that is key in the European Green Deal, and it is a new fund that will really specifically help the economic diversification of regions that are most hit by the transition, and also includes reskilling of people. So this is a fund that will really come on top of the normal cohesion policy funds. As it stands now, it will have 17.5 billion euros. It's for all member states, but it goes really to those areas that are most hit by the transition. For the transition to sustainability, we really want to aim for the longer term. So in this slide, what I want to show is that, of course, there are a number of things that we expect that as a minimum, that they are linked to the regulatory requirements. So we are already negotiating with regions and member states the next programs according to the priorities expressed in the Annexes D of the European Semester Country Reports of 2019. There are a couple of elements related to the regulatory framework, such as the enabling conditions that are important, the do no harm principle, etc. But what I really want to focus on here is that beyond those basic requirements, we really hope that together we can go for the higher ambitions. We really want to use the programming for the next period as an opportunity to formulate pathways for regions to achieve the long-term transitions. We want to go for transformational change in line with the European Green Deal. We also want to think beyond 2027. So the goals that we have expressed for a climate neutral Europe are for 2050. So it's really also the next decade of investments that will help us be prepared for achieving those 2050 goals. This is why we need to embed the elements of the European Green Deal into our programs already. And this includes, for instance, also nature-based solutions as a preferred option instead of grey infrastructure, and to exploit the full potential of cohesion policy to ensure a just transition. So that means not just the Just Transition Fund in itself, but all the funds, all the interventions need to take this element into account. My colleague Giacomo will really shift the attention now to more specifically how the macro-regional strategies can help you and Europe in achieving these goals. I am available through these details, but also in the event in case there are any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sander, for the excellent presentation. I'm Giacomo Luciani, European Commission, DG Regio. I work in the unit dealing, among others, with the macro-regional strategies, and I deal as horizontal topic with sustainable growth. In my today's presentation, I will try to focus in particular on the synergies between the European Green Deal and the EU macro-regional strategies. And as a start of this presentation, I would like to pass you three key messages, which I hope will help you also to follow the rest of the presentation, because they are a bit the core of what I will present today. So first key message, of course, the four macro-regional strategies are highly relevant in delivering the European Green Deal in their respective territories. This is clear because we have already some very good example of initiative developed within the macro-regional strategies that shows already clearly this relevance for the implementation of the European Green Deal. And I'm sure we will have the opportunity to see more in detail some of these initiatives during this event. Then the macro-regional strategies are an opportunity to tailor the European Green Deal to the specific needs of a territory, to ensure coordination and to speed up its implementation. This is a core part, you will see, of the presentation, and I will go more in detail on this aspect during the presentation. Last point is an opportunity because of the macro-regional strategies and European Green Deal complementarities, potentials, and mutual benefits. And these are actually the three key elements which really define the relation between the macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal, which I will try to further develop during the presentation. But before that, I give you some basic information about the EU macro-regional strategies after the excellent presentation of Sander that gave you some very good information on the European Green Deal. The macro-regional strategies are policy frameworks, so this is very important keyword to retain, initiated by EU and non-EU countries. And here I underline also specifically non-EU countries, because I know that this will be also an important topic of the debates of the event, and in particular concerning the Western Balkan countries, which are located in a defined geographical area to jointly address challenges and opportunities they have in common through setting shared long-term objectives. And these are really two keywords, shared and long-term. Shared because, of course, as we say, the starting point is that the macro-regional strategy address common challenges, and therefore they have to reach common objectives. Long-term because the macro-regional strategies are not only about specific projects, specific initiatives, but also, and I would say very much, about long-term processes. They act at multi-levels, strengthening. And here we have the three keywords, which in my opinion define very well the macro-regional strategies: cooperation, coordination, concentration. Cooperation between all the relevant macro-regional actors in order to join forces and reinforce trust and confidence among them. Coordination means better coordination of the use of the available funds and of the several initiative activities ongoing in the macro region. Concentration means better concentration of the funds in projects which are particularly strategic for the macro region. And here you have a broad overview in the map of the four macro-regional strategies covering the Baltic Sea region, the Danube region, Adriatic-Ionian region, and Alpine region, and which include, just to give you an idea, 19 EU member states and 9 non-EU countries. As I said, one key element of which defines very well the relation between the macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal are the complementarities between the two. And this is very much about the content of the macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal. And here the key message is that the macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal have common priorities and challenges. How? First of all, important points that the sustainability dimension is prominent in all the macro-regional strategies. Just to give you an example, in the revised action plan of the EU strategy for the Danube region is underlined the importance to include in the strategy sustainable development as horizontal principle. Then, other important point, priorities common to all the macro-regional strategies, and we can summarize, broadly speaking, environment and climate change, connectivity, research and innovation, and sustainable economic development are related to key action of the European Green Deal. And this is, of course, a very important aspect related to the content of the strategy European Green Deal. And when we talk about this topic, of course, we include important policy areas of the European Green Deal, such clean energy or, for example, sustainable mobility. Last point, most of European Green Deal challenges can be tackled only joining our efforts. And this, for me, is basically an evidence-based sentence. It's clear that to address challenges and to implement actions such as, for example, preservation and restoration of ecosystem and biodiversity, which I know will be an important topic of the debates we will have at the event, or, for example, the ambition towards zero pollution. This is clear that to implement this action, a coordinated and where needed, and if possible, a joint action is essential. Other key elements which define very well the relation between the two strategies are the potential of the macro-regional strategies in the implementation of the European Green Deal. And this is very much about the method, how the macro-regional strategy can contribute to this implementation. And here the key message is the macro-regional strategies offer a cooperation platform fit for purposes for supporting the implementation of the European Green Deal action. How? Through coordination of funds and action, where for funds we mean not only the EU funds, but all the available funds in a certain macro region, public but also private funds, and action, action of all those institutions, organizations, and generally speaking, entities which are acting in a certain macro region. We can think, for example, about the structures related to multilateral environmental agreements which are relevant for a certain macro region. Then, of course, through joint initiative for making the best use of the multiple and diversified funding opportunities and resources needed in order to face the European Green Deal common challenges. And here, the current embedding process plays a key role. Where for embedding process, we mean a process aimed at aligning the priorities of the EU funding program, currently, in particular, the EU funding program 21-27, to the priorities of the strategies. As we said, to ensure better coordination and better cooperation where this is needed. Then another important aspect that make the macro-regional strategies an important platform for the implementation of the European Green Deal, and for sure the cross-sectoral approach that the strategies offer for implementing the European Green Deal actions, which are strongly interconnected. The macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal cover several sectors, which are interconnected, and we have already several good examples of cross-sectoral initiative developed within the strategies, which definitely can be of added value for the implementation of the European Green Deal. Then last point, what also the strategy offer is multi-level governance and stakeholder involvement for ensuring the contribution of all the relevant actors to the European Green Deal implementation. It's clear that for an implementation of the European Green Deal, intervention at different governance level, European, national, regional, local, and also the mobilization of key stakeholders from different sectors, different fields is very important. And this is really a main feature of all the macro-regional strategies. Then last element, which define again very well this relation between the macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal, is the fact that is a relation based on mutual benefits. We can say a win-win relation. The macro-regional strategies support the European Green Deal implementation, and the European Green Deal provides a common macro-regional strategy vision. I will try to explain this a bit more in detail. So the macro-regional strategies can help the European Green Deal implementation on the ground with coordinated regional and local initiatives, taking into account the territorial specificities of a certain geographical area. And this is really a key aspect. These are two really key words, which somehow explain very well also the speciality of the strategies as a tool for the implementation of the European Green Deal. Activities on the ground, which take into account the territorial specificities of a certain geographical areas, the specific features of a certain geographical area. Then the macro-regional strategy can help the implementation of the European Green Deal, as we've seen in general in non-EU countries. In particular, here I mentioned the Western Balkans, as will be a very important topic also for the discussion at the event. And which is connected to this, of course, the future green agenda for Western Balkans, which is under development, as Western Balkans countries play an important role in the achievement of the Adriatic-Ionian and Danube strategies objectives. We can a bit summarize this point, saying that somehow the strategy is a platform for a Green Deal diplomacy. Last point, but I have to say very important one, because we focus very much the presentation on the contribution of the strategies to the implementation of the European Green Deal. And this point is more what the European Green Deal offers to the strategy. And for me, what I wanted in particular to underline is that the European Green Deal offers a common policy framework and common objectives to the macro-regional strategies. And therefore, it provides a common vision. This is a very important wording for me, because the European Green Deal can be a sort of reference document, let's say, for the macro-regional strategies, which can help coordination within the strategy So basically between the different pillars of a strategy, or even between the different actions in a certain pillar of the strategy, but also across the 4 macro-regional strategies. And I think the event of 21st and 22nd September is a very good example of this. I just conclude leaving some source of information which I hope can be helpful for you. And I thank you very much for your attention, and I look very much forward for the debate of 21st and 22nd September. Thank you.